Donald Trump did a town hall on Fox News last night, and it was with Laura Ingraham. I want to walk through some of these moments, starting with some truly disgusting ones where Trump betrays and emphasizes his belief that he is the ultimate victim, and every story in the entire world is about that fact, is about how he's being treated so poorly, and any accountability that he's experiencing is really just him being targeted and the victim of a witch hunt. And in this case, it comes in the form of a question about Alexi Navalny in Russia. If you're not familiar, Alexi Navalny was the Russian opposition leader. He opposed Vladimir Putin and was a prominent figure for doing so. And he died in a Russian prison. It's, of course, assumed that very likely Putin had something to do with that. And so in response to a question about the death of Alexei Navalny, Donald Trump says, "It's happening here," referring to himself.
People around the world are expressing outrage over the death of Alexei Navalny, of course, in a horrific Russian prison. You posted on Truth Social about it. You said that his death made you more aware of the political circumstances here at home.
It's happening here.
Specifically your rivals. I want to give you the chance.
Okay. And then if he wasn't clear enough there, when talking about his civil fraud fine, he said, "It's Navalny."
President, the crowd's going crazy here, but during this campaign, a huge amount of your time has been spent in court, in the courtroom in New York and so forth. Now, in this New York civil fraud case, this Judge Arthur Ingram ruled against you for almost $500 million plus interest that runs every day. When I first read this, like $87,000 a day. How will you put up that kind of money? Because you have a bond to put up. Even if you appeal, you got to put up escrow money. That's it's a lot of dough.
It is a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. The guy's a nut job. I've known that.
It's a form of Navalny. Aside from all of Trump's other character flaws, how do you see that level of narcissism? Just a vile level of narcissism, and say, yeah, that's who I want to be my president. Someone who clearly can't see an inch past his own face. Someone who sees a potential political assassination or the death of an opposition leader and a revered figure in a foreign country in a disgusting prison, and thinks that's like what's happening to me for being fined for engaging in business fraud. That's like what's happening to me because there are laws and I broke them. It's pretty stunning. I know we're used to Trump's behavior and his low character, but even if for no other reason but to not come off so insane, he couldn't even fake it. It's blows my mind. Moving forward, here's him saying what he would do on day one as president.
They're emptying out their prisons into.
What's the first thing you will do if you become president again on the border? I know that's going to be your first
There's
act.
two things I'm going to do. Number one is drill, baby, drill. And the other thing, equal.
I'm assuming he went on to address the border, but that's where that clip ends because she asks about the border and he says, drill, baby, drill. But of course, he's just saying what he would do day one. Now, interesting he would say that given that oil production is currently breaking records. We're currently drilling, baby, drilling more than we ever have in the history of the United States. So it's strange people think that's a number one priority that needs to happen when, again, we're currently breaking U.S. oil production records. Then here's Trump admitting he actually, and this is interesting, he's willing to avoid spreading lies about the 2020 election on Fox News because he knows they will either cut it out or they will have problems with it or will have to fact check such claims.
If I were losing in the polls, they wouldn't even be talking about me, and I wouldn't have had any legal fees.
If you had retired from politics, would all these cases...
If I were out, I think, although they hate me so much, I think if I got out, they'd still, let's pursue this guy. We can't stand this guy. Look, I won an election that wasn't supposed to be winnable. I then did much better the second time. I won't get into it, but I did because of Fox. But I did. If I...
Because of Fox, he won't get into it, which shows us the Dominion case did something. Because they used to be great with broadcasting those lies. Now Trump knows they're against it enough, even with him, that he should probably just avoid spreading lies about the election. So, no, we didn't get the justice that would be the most satisfying for all the lies spread about the election yet. I think that would come in the form of Trump being held legally accountable, but that's working its way through the courts. But at least this civil case and the settlement Fox News had to agree to with Dominion did end up changing their behavior enough to where Trump won't even bring up that subject on their airwaves. Very interesting. Then here's him getting asked how he'll pay the fraud decision.
Question, which I thought about a lot last night because it's such a huge amount of money. You have to decide whether you're going to put up that bond an escrow to appeal. Are you going to do that? And where are you going to get the money?
I'll tell you what we're going to do. Number one, we'll have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash. This is all coming out of the White House. This is all, everything that you see, whether it's that one or the DA. You know, in the DA's office, in Bragg's office, he has his top people.
I love that. You think Biden is coordinating this? Sir, you're breaking news. You believe that Joe Biden's coordinating everything after you've spread that conspiracy theory for months and months and months and months. Fascinating. Yes, Trump is spreading the lie that Biden is coordinating all of these cases. I say again, how you believe that Joe Biden, the guy who, according to them, can't think and doesn't know where he is masterfully coordinating one of the greatest conspiracies in the history of the world to take down his political opponent and holding him, or I shouldn't say holding him accountable, targeting him on the basis of actions, many of which we saw play out in public in terms of his attempts to block the peaceful transfer of power. But that's just a scheme to fabricate stuff against Trump and then take him down in the court. And he's doing it on the state level, local level, and a federal level masterfully. And he doesn't know where he is. That Joe Biden, something else. Hey, he also claimed to be an expert on law.
It's all coming in on you now.
If I
From
didn't,
criminal to civil to the money.
Oh, I got everything. I've become an expert at law. If I didn't run, I wouldn't have any of these lawsuits. You know that. None of them.
So, an expert at law who just keeps losing in court. Quite the expert on law, indeed. Then here's him on his classified documents case.
Why didn't you just hand them over when they were requested, though? I mean, they requested them. You could have just handed them over. Probably saved yourself a lot of trouble.
First of all, I didn't have to hand them over. But second of all, I would have done that.
And apparently you did have to hand them over. And by the way, the 15 boxes of documents, as I've pointed out in the past, that he did hand over voluntarily after being requested multiple times, that they didn't have to come and get through the execution of a search warrant, he wasn't charged for. Just like how Biden turned over documents and wasn't charged for that, Trump wasn't charged for the first 15 boxes of documents. Then he said, that's it. And they said, no, it's not. And then kept requesting. And then allegedly he started directing lawyers to lie to authorities and move boxes around to keep them out of the hands of authorities and obstructing the investigation and potentially destroying evidence. And so the handing over of them voluntarily could have saved him all of these issues, just like how Joe Biden saved him many legal problems because he handed them over voluntarily. Here's something that Trump says about Tim Scott that is so Trumpian.
I have to say, this is in a very positive way. Tim Scott, he has been much better for me than he was for himself. I watched his campaign and he doesn't like talking about.
Yeah. Tim Scott was much better, or he's been much better for me than he is for himself. That is how Trump thinks of, I think, everybody. You're better for me than you are for you, okay? And then here's him speaking to his potential shortlist for VP.
View that.
The audience has been asked who they think would be a good choice, and various names came up. One of them was, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
He's made a big splash. Ron DeSantis, who's making an appearance today in South Carolina, we just found out. Obviously, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, and a big presence here for Tulsi Gabbard. Very interesting. And Kristi Noem as well, I should say.
Right.
Are they all on your short list?
They are.
And when can you
View that?
He says they are. So some truly stunning options there. Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis. How on earth could it be Ron DeSantis? I don't know. Byron Donalds, Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think it's going to be Vivek or Ron or Byron or Tulsi. I think it could be Tim Scott or Kristi Noem. Why would you pick Tulsi Gabbard? I don't know. That would be wild. And then finally, Laura Ingraham, very quickly and in a way that I don't think the crowd barely even noticed, debunks something that Trump says and Trump barely even notices.
How are you going to make sure that mail-in ballots and voter fraud, which we heard from a lot of people in line, was an issue front and center? They're very concerned about mail-in voting. So forget the past. What are you going to do to make sure we don't have problems going forward?
If you have
RNC?
mail-in voting, you automatically have fraud. If you have
Okay, well, there's
I don't
mail-in
care.
voting in Florida,
That's
and you
right.
won huge.
That's right. If you have it, you're going to have fraud.
He says, that's right, as she's saying something that at least, if nothing else, proves a contradiction in his belief system. Now, regardless of pointing out those sorts of contradictions and trying to catch hypocrisy on this, most importantly, mail-in voting just doesn't have a problem with fraud. And the evidence doesn't reveal some notable issue with fraud when it comes to mail-in voting. So that's the most important thing. So he's lying on that. But it is interesting that Ingram points out, again, within the applause of a crowd, says it really quietly and then doesn't repeat it, that there's mail-in voting in Florida and you won huge. And so the places where mail-in voting absolutely benefits Trump in certain places, because a lot of older folks in Florida, for example, may vote by mail because it's more convenient and vote for Trump. He's not going to have a problem with it. He votes by mail and he doesn't have a problem with it. But his belief that this is hurting him in other places then leads him to spread conspiracy theories about it. But really, it doesn't have to hurt him. It's increasingly disproportionately Democrats voting for or voting through mail-in voting, I should say, because of Trump's conspiracy theories. So Republicans stop voting through mail-in ballots because Trump is saying it's horrible and you got to vote same day at the voting site in person. But you're just needlessly restricting your voters' ability to conveniently vote. So I guess, sure, keep saying it. Only vote on election day. Then if there's some problem they have in their life, or it's a rainy day and they don't want to go, it's going to make them less likely to vote. Or you could say just vote within the confines of the law as conveniently as you can, and then you're good to go. Seems like a good political strategy and in line with democratic principles. Try to let people vote as easily as they can while keeping the process secure, which is what we're doing. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership.